Just note that the meeting is now being recorded. In regard to the conduct of the meeting, a reminder of the following points. Please ensure your camera and microphone are off. This assists with broadband connectivity and also prevents background noise. I will call on the relevant officer to present their report. If a member or officer wishes to ask a question or raise a point, please do so using the raise your hand function on your device. I will invite each member in the queue to speak, and at that point, please switch your mic and camera on. After you have spoken, please ensure that you lower your hand and put your mic and camera off. Your device should be positioned so that your image is clear to the other participants, and please speak clearly and concisely directly at the camera. When calling for agreement of the recommendations at each item, a no show of raised hands will be taken as indication of the committee's approval. In regard to declarations of interest, members are reminded of the protocol. You must leave the virtual meeting by ending the call, which will be confirmed by the moderator to the chair. And following consideration of the item, you will be invited back into the meeting by the moderator. Please ensure you remain present to accept the invite to rejoin. Item 12 will be taken in private at the end of the meeting. Prior to moving into private, participants other than the relevant officer and members of the committee will be asked to leave the virtual meeting. If necessary, there will be a short recess to allow for this process and to resume with the private item. Finally, a reminder that the meeting is not being live streamed. However, be aware that it is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on the Chorus website following the meeting. Before we commence with the main business on the agenda, I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the committee to extend congratulations to Robert Emmett on his appointment to the post of Executive Director for Corporate Services in Dundee City Council. Whilst you will join me in offering Robert our congratulations on his appointment and in wishing him all success in his new post and new location, we will be very sorry to see him go. Since his appointment as Director of Finance over 15 years ago, Robert has been a tower of strength and has given consistent and sound advice, which has contributed significantly to the CORD always being well prepared and in a sound financial position. We will miss him greatly and wish him and his family all the best for the future. And hopefully you'll all get Robert an easy time of it today as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Robert. Right, if we can move on now to item 1, which is minute of meeting of 23rd September 2020, and that is for approval. Are we happy to approve? Indeed we are, thank you. And then item 2, minute of meeting of Highton's of 13th November 2020, and that's for noting. Item 3, minute of meeting of the Northern Roads Collaboration Joint Committee of 21st February 2020. I'm going to ask Colin Mackenzie to make some comment in reference to section 6 of the minute, which is road drainage and flood risk, which we've all had some problems with over the last several weeks, I suppose. Callum, would you like to make some comment, please?
Thank you, Chair. I certainly found the participation in the Roads Collaboration Programme very useful as far as the Cornwall is concerned, because there's much in terms of the issues that we're finding locally here, we're finding that there are national problems as well. So this is quite an apt minute here in terms of flood risk and road drainage and flood risk. So there is, as you can see from the narrative of the report, always a conflict between the Flood Risk Management Act and the Road Scotland Act, and in fact getting a clarity on where responsibility lies. Sometimes it just has to be a matter of practicality at a local level and a matter of prioritisation. So there's another item 8 within this agenda as well, where we're looking at the flood risk management strategy as well. So all these things tied together, but I just wanted to draw attention to that, as that being an issue that's been considered nationally as well. We have had some local experience of this over the past couple of months. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you, Colin. Right, that's for noting. We move on to item 4, which is declaration of interest. Members are asked to declare any interest they have in any items of the agenda. It would be helpful if members expressed why they are declaring an interest in the item concerned. Please do so now using the raise hand function. Any hands? Please ensure the declaration is repeated prior to the relevant item and you adhere to the protocol as previously indicated. Okay, we'll move on to performance management. Just 5, property and infrastructure. This report provides an overview of the property and infrastructure business plan progress and related performance for Q2 2020-2021. Colin Mackenzie will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just maybe highlight a couple of issues, and one is related to budget. And through the COVID restrictions, we have suffered a bit from a lack of income in many channels across the section. One of them is in project delivery and not being able to get onto site and deliver projects. So I'm forecasting about £120,000 a deficit in that. We have had some additional income in, so I've tried to work everything else within budget and take account of that by year end. The other thing I'd maybe like to highlight as well is the appendix to the report, where we are having conflict between the amount of resource we have just now and the amount we have to deliver. So the director and I have looked at a number of key topics. So you'll find that in section 919 to the report, where we've looked at what we need to deliver on and what we need to focus on just now. So happy to take some feedback on that if any members have any concerns. And lastly, the Burnera Bridge has been a matter that we've been dealing with recently as well. I'm pleased to inform members that we have now placed the order for the bridge, which will start giving us clear timescales for the delivery of that project. So happy to take any questions on the report or these issues, Chair.
Thank you, Colin. Does anybody have any questions for Colin on this item? No. Okay. Are we happy to agree the recommendation at 3.1? Oh, Angus Morrison, that's a very late hand, Angus.
Sorry, Chair. No, it's just on 7.3 of the report, maybe Mr. Mackenzie or Mr. Emmett could answer. On marine services, we put a budget of minus 255, an actual spend of 286, and we'll show you an outturn of minus 255. Just a bit of clarity on that, where we've gone from an accurate to showing an outturn of minus. What deficit?
Right, who's going to answer that, Colin?
Chair, it'll be to do with the timing of the payments. So the actual shows where we've reached at this stage of the year. But Mr. Mackenzie is reporting that by the end of the year he expects to have achieved the income that he will have achieved. It's probably the biggest element of income relates to billing for peer services, and I suspect it's just due to a timing of that, and Mr. Mackenzie can hopefully confirm.
Is that a fairly responsible response, Angus?
Yes, I'm happy with that, Chair. Thank you.
I have the convener, Norman E. MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask Callum and or Robert about them going to a meeting in Burnera next week, just to let people know in detail. It's similar to the previous meeting we had in terms of giving information, and I know that there are concerns about. There are 6 people there who are looking to be building houses over the next 6 months or so, and there are real concerns about getting the timber frames across the bridge in time for the spring. So I think that's what most of the discussion is going to be about. If there is some disappointment in the delay in the bridge, and that's due to other contracts that have to be covered by the contractor. Sorry, my phone's ringing. So I don't know if Callum or Robert can respond to that. Cheers. Thank you.
Robert, do you want to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Convener. We're happy to attend the meeting. We've said to the Community Council just to invite us, and we're happy to join in and have a discussion with them. And we will continue to try and work with homeowners or potential homeowners to help them resolve their problems in the most effective way. So that's probably best done on an individual basis. It is disappointing. We had a bit of a delay getting a formal confirmation from one of the landowners. And that did delay the process. In the meantime, the contractor who's supplying the bridge, took some other orders, which has pushed the timetable back. That's not in our hands to do anything about. But if we're able to go to a meeting in the next couple of weeks or even next week, then we can provide an update on the timetable to the community, and we can have a discussion with individuals about their own circumstances.
Happy with that, Convener?
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Kenny John MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, the perennial question, it seems to be the infamous salt barn. Can I just bear in mind, are we still progressing and pursuing a salt barn, or have we taken a decision to look at other options rather than the barn in terms of protecting these salt piles that we have? I know it's Mr. Mackenzie will be sick of hearing questions about this, and I wish it would be resolved. But I'm just not quite sure where we're at with it. Have we changed from the original plan, and that we're now looking at more temporary structures, more dispersed?
Callum, do you want to answer that question from Councillor MacLeod?
Happy to, and I do appreciate members' concern about this as well. It has been a concern for myself in how we can actually provide adequate shelter for the salt. What we're looking at now, the council, is creating a series of concrete bays and then having a tarpaulin cover for that. So the principle being that we would have a concrete base structure which will actually protect the salt on the ground, and then we'll use a temporary tarpaulin over the top of it. That's likely to be much more affordable and just as effective.
Thank you very much. I mean, a pragmatic approach, I think, and it'll be. I think we'll all be pleased to see some progress in that, and I trust that there'll be no issues with SEPA in terms of discharges and things like that from these structures. It's an approach that certainly I'm pleased to hear that we're going down that route now.
Okay, thank you. Your hand's still up, Kenny John. Thank you. Do members agree with the recommendation of 3.1? Yeah. Okay, move on to item 6, which is Consumer Environmental Services. This report provides an overview of the community's Directorate Business Plan progress and related performance for quarter 2, 2020-2021. The area of relevance to this committee is municipal services at section 7 of the report. David MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. David, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If I draw the members' attention to paragraph 7, which relates to municipal services, the majority of bus services for school and public have more or less returned to normal. North Uist Public Bus Services contract has now been awarded. We're very close to a solution for Barra and Battersea. We're just going through the procurement hoops at the moment. We've had an offer from a new operator who's set up. He's got all his licenses in place. He's got his vehicle, and we're just he's submitted a bid that's acceptable. It's a fixed price contract, so we're just going through the procurement process to enable that to be set up. So we hope that isn't very far away. It's been a long slog to get through to anything on the ground that can provide public bus services in Barra and Battersea, but we think we're just about there on that. During the COVID-19 situation, all waste and recycling services remain fully operational. Staff continue to follow social guidance protocols, social distancing protocols following the Scottish Government guidance. But we have been restricted in the rollout of new services. We're not able to do door-to-door engagement, and rollout of the 3 weekly residual and recycling collection frequencies, that's been delayed. We just have to wait till we get the go-ahead on that it's safe to actually do that. Work on the new cell for Melrose is still ongoing. Have been some issues with the ground conditions. We were intending to split the contract, but that's not going to work out financially for us, but there will be a subsequent process on that. In terms of Sandwick Cemetery, the work there is just about completed. There's still a bit of topsoil to be laid and some seeding, but it's very close to completion. Moving on to financial performance, there has been a loss of income, particularly for commercial properties and commercial industrial businesses that weren't operating, and also from fares for Bus-na-Corla bus services. The bus services run by Bus-na-Corla were down passenger numbers by just slightly more than 50% down on month by month from last year. But we have had financial assistance from the centre, and hope we'll still return forecasted balanced budget at the end of the year. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, David. Any questions for David? I'm seeing Councillor Charlie Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair. Not a member of your committee. If I could get some information in regards to Sandwick Cemetery. I heard there that you're finishing the work there, but I'm led to believe there's only 30 layers left there at the moment, David. Is there a possibility of some of the new area being turned over? And if that is possible, it would help short term over the next number of months.
David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The situation isn't as sometimes the numbers don't actually give the full picture. There's a significant number of unused layers in Sandwick. A lot of the layers are bought well in advance of need. But in terms of the new area, you can't just turf over it's technically that wouldn't be feasible. So, but we will just continue to manage the situation. We're not at a position where we don't have enough layers to manage.
Thank you, Chair. That's a short-term answer because it's been raised by a few people in regards to the concern that these 30 layers or 30 plus will be used over the next 4 to 6 months. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Let's See no other hands up. Insofar as this committee's interests are concerned, the members agree the recommendation at 3.1. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to item 7, business plans. This report is for consideration by all service committees and will be considered by PNR in conjunction with the concurrent budget strategy update report, which sets out the scale of the challenge remaining, even if all proposals are implemented. The report recommends proposals that aim to realise savings of 3.5 million across 2021-2023, and these are detailed in Appendix A. There are 12 lines relevant to this committee, and these fall under the remit of 2 directors. BP 11, Property and Infrastructure Staff, and BP 40, Winter Maintenance, fall under the remit of the Director for Assets, Finance and Resources. BP 25 to 28, Waste and Layers, BP 41 to 43, relating to garage and waste, and BP 46, Abattoirs, fall under the remit of the Director for Communities. I will ask the Director for Assets, Finance and Resources, and David MacLeod will come in and address the proposals relevant to his committee. And members will be afforded the opportunity to ask any questions. Robert, do you want to go first?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps just by way of background, this is part of a process that we've been following for several months, and the work of the committee today is to look at the proposals that relate to that committee, as you've just outlined, and consider whether they're content for them to proceed. So there are 2 specific proposals that fall under my remit. One of them is to look at the staffing within Callum's team and see whether there are opportunities to rationalise that. There's been some turnover in recent weeks, months, and there are opportunities there that we've already started looking at to make some savings. And the second and more challenging area is to review winter maintenance and look at what can be done around the policy and the delivery mechanism to realise savings. That is a more challenging programme that attracted, if you've read the comments, a lot of discussion and comment from the public consultation, and clearly will need a significant amount of work, but I would submit that we should do it. That will obviously have to come back to you in due course to consider the actual consequences and how that might shape up. And Mr. Mackenzie is in the process of agreeing a Transport Infrastructure MAU to start that process of looking at the detail, Chair. So happy to take any questions on those 2 specific proposals.
Okay, Alison MacLeod, do you have a question?
No, it's about the technical problem. I can hardly hear your dulcet tone. I don't know whether it's my phone, but
I'm not hearing you at all, Alistair. I'm not understanding a word you're saying.
Speak up. No, you're trying to get me to speak up. I can hardly hear you, Ethan.
Turn up his volume. Can you turn up his volume?
Can you turn up your volume, Alistair? Are you hearing me, Norman MacDonald?
I'm further down in point than Alistair. I'm hearing everything as loud as a bell. It's absolutely perfect down here.
My problem with okay, thanks.
We had a similar issue last night while I was on, and the person who was experiencing the difficulty used headphones and everything became a lot clearer. I think it might be to do with the microphones in the particular iPad or machine. So I think switching to headphones might be a solution.
Okay. Did you have a question though, Norman? You're muted now.
Sorry, yeah, no, I was just going to intervene to say that my connection was fine in the same region as Alistair, so I think the difficulty might have been with this machine rather than with you, because I'm hearing you fine.
Yeah. You were helping your colleague, that's very good of you. David, you want to go then? David MacLeod.
The 6 areas that are within municipal services are 26, 27 and 28, so that's a change to the charging regime for bulky waste uplifts, gradual increase of the cost of layers and interments to bring it to full cost recovery, and again the full cost recovery for commercial and industrial waste. That's something that we do regularly, but it's just to make sure that we're not slipping behind the actual cost of delivering these services. 41, 42 and 43 are a review of garage and fleet, so that we're developing a fleet policy for us that we maximise the benefits of things like the Crown Commercial framework for procurement vehicles, the 3-week waste collections that we had been do anyhow, and the organic waste capture that's worked to get more organic waste into the AD system and not going to landfill. Happy to take any questions on individual points.
Convener.
Thank you, Chair. Following on from my namesake, Norrie MacDonald, the sound quality can be improved if people switch off the video. It might improve the sound, so it might enable Alistair. It's been very difficult to hear David as well, probably for the same reason. So if you switch the video off, at least we can hear what the queries are or the comments are.
Okay, thank you, Convener. Norman MacDonald.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Can I ask David, and I'm not sure if he's the right man to be asking about this, it's a general policy. With the lead-in, we've got a 10-year lead-in now to 2030 when vehicles will be no longer sold, diesel or petrol vehicles will no longer be sold. Have we a strategy to cope with the change? And can I ask as well, with the current regime of electric charging points throughout the islands, is there an overarching body that looks after these points? Is there any coherent strategy for improving them and looking after them, or are they just randomly looked after? I know some of them belong to CalMac at the piers, etc. Is there anybody assigned to ensure that we have working charging points across the islands? Because increasingly we're going to see more and more people moving to electric. It's something that's probably been considered by many folk within the next 10 years as the lead into 2030 approaches us. Is there a joined up strategy, geared within the Comorla to deal with this change? And if so, can I find out who's leading it?
David, can you explain our joint strategy to Norman, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I won't go into too much detail, because we could be here all morning if I did, but I'm quite happy to speak to Councillor MacDonald individually if he wants me to give him a bit more information. There's a couple of strands going on at the moment. Scottish Government have started a piece of work to move local authorities from where they are just now to decarbonising cars and light commercial vehicles by 2025. So that's a move away from the purchase of petrol or diesel small vehicles within the next 5 years. That's a fairly challenging thing for us to do, because it's fine for cars and the technology for electric cars is moving on at a pace, but commercial vehicles are lagging quite significant behind in terms of range. There is also a plan to move the heavier vehicles, buses and HGVs also in that direction. In terms of the strategy, there's two elements. There's the public access charging points that have been funded by Scottish Government, and we manage quite a lot of them. Some, as Councillor MacDonald said, are managed by the likes of CalMac and some of the community groups out there who have gone down that road. There's also a push just now to have more individual charging points, not necessarily fast chargers, but things like 7 kilowatt chargers for fleet vehicles, so they can be charged overnight and not basically clog up the public access system. So there's quite a lot going on. Cala's team are working on the charging points. I have been leading the move to move us from petrol diesel vehicles to electric. We have had an electric bin lorry up last week, and there's a subsequent report on plenty of vehicles, and I'm happy to leave that till we get to that stage. But as I say, it is quite detailed. There's quite a lot of push from Scottish Government. One of the issues that we have is that a lot of the heavier vehicles and even the sort of transit-sized vans so far are only really suitable for urban use. As soon as you try and do rural use, going across the Barvas Moor or whatever, they just don't have the range when you're carrying a significant weight in them. So it is a challenge. It's something that we're hoping that things will improve with the technology that's available. But we are working with across the two departments and also with Scottish Government and the likes of Switched On Fleet Energy Savings Trust to try and move things along as quickly as we can.
Colin Mackenzie, you want to come in as well?
Thanks, Chair. Just to provide some clarity from the Council's perspective as well of our role. We obviously work with the likes of Hightrans and Sustrans and whatever initiatives that they may be rolling out as well in terms of charging points, as well as with Scottish Government. So we've given an amount of money per year to increase the network. So we've been concentrating north, south, east or west of the Western Isles. So there's a reasonable coverage just now. Within the last 6 months as well, I wrote out to all members asking them for ideas of where they would like to see additional charge points should we get more money. There's another programme in place just now led by Hightrans, where they're looking at putting another 8 rapid chargers throughout the Western Isles. So based on the information I've got from communities and from members, I've given them some ideas for where these could be put in. There are some difficulties with some of the aspirations of where you would put a charging point in, and that can be linked to the phone connectivity, which isn't such an issue nowadays, but the electricity capacity can be in many locations, especially for a 50 kilowatt charger. There's a website as well. It's called Charge Place Scotland. If you do a search on Charge My Car, don't do the mistake I just did and put in Charge Your Cat, because you get a different website coming up for that. But the Charge Place Scotland website will show you all the charging points throughout the islands and their status, so whether they've been used, whether they're out of use or not. So we are building up that picture, and the infrastructure we have around about the Western Isles just now is suitable for the current level of electric vehicles. But I take your point, Councillor MacDonald, we need to prepare for the future.
Right, Norman.
Chairman.
You're mute.
Chairman.
Yes, Cala, yeah, my own experience, thanks again, Chair. My own experience is that cats and electricity don't mix very well as well. Yeah, I'm glad to see that we recognise that there is a curve and that we're either on it or slightly ahead of it. So grateful for your responses, guys. Thanks very much.
David, your hand's still up. Are you wanting to come back?
Yes, Chair. It was really just to make the point that as electric vehicles become more mainstream, and as people move over to the use of electric vehicles, my view is that there'll be much more people charging their cars at home, because the economic position of buying an electric vehicle and to get the best value for money, then charging at home is going to be the way forward. Vehicles now have quite often a range of about 250 to 300 miles, so it is much more manageable to do that, and you get a full charge. You'll get 100%. If you go to a rapid charger, you only get 80%, and if you're looking at having a vehicle that's got, let's say, 300-mile range, if you lose a fifth of that, you're down to 240, which is quite a significant difference. But we now charge for charging at all the charging posts, which is probably about double it would cost to charge at home.
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you, Colin. I think Ray Mackenzie, you want to ask a question.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not on your committee. I don't have a raise the hand facility on this machine, so that's why I'm waving frantically. And regarding your comments at the beginning, we are obviously sorry to lose Robert Emmett at this stage, and I'm surprised that he's been here 15 years. And I wonder, my question is not, has he been, did he start at the age of 21 or even earlier? I'm quite amazed at that. The point, the one that I wish to highlight is BP 42, which is the 3-week collection. And obviously I'm not on your committee, so I can't take any part in any decision on that. But personally, I'm not happy about this. I think it'll create more problems than it's worth as far as the savings are concerned. We're talking about 50,000, I think, on the first year and nothing on the second year. But it's not purely on that 50,000. I just feel that this might create more problems than it's worth at the end of the day. And I'll just leave it to the committee to make their own comments on it. Thank you, Chairman.
You want to add anything to that, David?
Thank you, Chair. I think the 3-weekly collections have been rolled out in a lot of areas in Scotland, but it's not an overall reduction in service. The intention is to improve the frequency of the recycling services at the same time. And it's also hoped that because of the more efficient collection, that we'll be able to use the split body vehicles in a wider area and pick up some of the areas that don't have a curbside collection service at the moment, because you can only go to the 3-weekly residual if you've also got the curbside recycling to go alongside that. So I think it is something that we're basing this on the guidance from Scottish Government's Household Recycling Charter. The volumes of the bins that we use currently fit in with a 3-weekly cycle, and it has proven to work in other areas.
Okay, thank you for that.
Chairman, yes, can I come back on that? Just thank you for that reply. Does that mean that we have the equipment, or how extensive is this going to be, and what's the programme, and what progress have we made so far?
David, can you respond to that?
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 situation has not allowed us to do any door-to-door engagement with householders, and until we can do that, we know from experience that to have a successful rollout of a service change and get the support we need to divert what you need into the right bin, that you have to do it well, and you have to do it properly, and you have to engage with householders. We can't just throw bins out and maybe throw a leaflet out and hope that it works. We've got to make sure that it works from day one, and that people get a chance to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what the benefits of doing it are. And unfortunately, with the COVID situation, that's not something we've been able to do as yet. But as soon as we get the go-ahead to start this work, we will start it.
Okay, David.
So, Chairman, thank you for that. So, can I ask then, that 50,000 that's been indicated here in the savings, I think it was 50,000 in the first year. What is that for? I appreciate that with COVID, things, are very difficult and delayed and all the rest of it. So it's a 50,000, that initial 50,000. What actually is that for? Thank you.
David, can you respond, please?
Yeah, it's a combination of quite a lot of different factors. We should have increased recycling figures because 3 weekly residual has proven to make a significant difference in diversion to recycling. We also know that from the Barber's experience that taking the food and garden waste away from the same day collection as the residual bin improves the quality and the quantity that we get in, and that all adds to the savings. There will be some efficiency savings with the vehicles because the rotopress can carry more and service more bins in a smaller period. So we should be able to generate some efficiency. So it is a combination of all these things.
Thank you for that, David. Right, I'm not seeing any further hands, so insofar as this committee's interests are concerned, do members agree the recommendation in 3.1? Yes, okay, thank you. We move on to item 8, Outer Hebrides Flood Risk Management. The Flood Risk Management Scotland Act 2009 introduced a coordinated and partnership approach to tackle flood risk in Scotland in a sustainable manner. The Corps is required to prepare and publish a local flood risk management plan to be reviewed every 6 years. This report seeks approval to consult on the draft Outer Hebrides Flood Risk Management Strategy and draft action plan developed by SEPA in partnership with the Corps and Scottish Water. Callum Mackenzie will speak to the report and answer any questions. Callum, do you want to add any more to the report?
Thank you, Chair. Maybe just to say that this has been getting a bit more attention recently. We have noticed more flooding events and more effects on our coastline. This is the flood risk management strategy is part of the Scottish Government's Climate Ready Scotland framework. So there's quite a lot to this in terms of climate change and adaptation, which this is part of understanding where the flood risks are. So in the Appendix 1 to the report, you'll see the areas that we'll be looking at and focusing on. This is for consultation going into cycle 2, and what actually comes out of the consultation might be completely different to that, but it's seeking the approval of the committee to consult on this basis. Thank you.
Any questions from members? No. Do members agree the recommendation at 3.1? Yes, okay, thank you. Item 9, cleansing vehicle replacement. The Corps agreed on 6th May 2020 to replace 3 of the split body refuse collection vehicles. This report provides an update on the replacement programme from cleansing services vehicles as a result of COVID-19 impacts. David MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Do you have anything to add to this report, David?
Thank you, Chair. I just would like to add we have had the trials of the electric vehicle, the electric refuse collection vehicle. It was up last week. It ran. It came up on the Monday. The intention was to run three routes, 3 collection routes, initially in the Stornoway area and a route down to Tongue, and then it was returned on the Friday. It's probably an indication of the way, or the state of play with the technology at the moment, that that we weren't able to complete the run on Thursday because of an electrical fault on the vehicle and it hadn't charged properly. But in terms of what we learned from the trial, we're quite clear that the technology that's available to us at the moment would only allow us to use this kind of vehicle in the Stornoway town area. It just doesn't have enough range to go beyond that. But in terms of the report, it's really just to change the to change the order in which we purchase vehicles because of the age of the fleet and the delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we've touched on already. I'm happy to take any questions. My colleague Ian Campbell is also here if there's any questions about the trials.
Okay, thank you, David. Any questions for David or Ian? No. Okay. Do members agree the recommendation of 3.1? Yes. Okay, thank you. Move on to item 10, traffic management, parking enforcement. This report provides an update on matters associated with parking enforcement related to the financial implications of implementing Part 4 of the Transport Scotland Act Bill and 6 agreement to extend the service level agreement for traffic warden services for the further 5 years. Callum Mackenzie will speak to the report and answer any questions. Callum?
Thank you, Chair. The Transport Scotland Act, Part 4, refers to parking on payments legislation. It's still very unclear what the timescale for potential implementation of this across Scotland will be, because it needs secondary legislation to enforce. We did do a bit of work about a year ago on the cost of implementation and enforcement in the Western Isles. The costs are significant. There's a breakdown of them in the appendix to the report. In line with this as well, we currently have an SLA with Police Scotland for enforcing on-street and off-street parking just now in the Western Isles. Some authorities have gone down the route of decriminalisation and doing the enforcement themselves. With the exception of Glasgow and Edinburgh, most of these authorities are struggling to make ends meet with managing parking enforcement themselves. So therefore, in summary, there is new legislation coming in which we're unsure about the implementation date of, but there are financial implications to the Council. I suppose the good news for the Council is that the Police Scotland are willing to extend their current agreement for enforcement, and if the committee and the Corla are happy to extend that, that forms part of the recommendation of 3.1. So happy to take any questions on that, Chair.
Any questions on that specific point for Callum? Councillor Charlie Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair. Not a member of your committee, not in specifically to that, but I would, Chair, like to suggest an additional recommendation for the committee to discuss and decide whether they would be in favour of it. And that would be that the Council agree to provide free parking in Percival Square car park, limited to a maximum period of 2 hours for the period from 18th December 2020 to the 5th of January 2021 to help support businesses during the festive period in Stornoway Town Centre.
Are you proposing that, Charlie? I do have that, but I've got Councillor Ronald Fraser, seconded by Councillor Kenny MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just bringing it to the attention of the committee, and Councillor Fraser and Councillor MacLeod should be coming in, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Ronald Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to first of all thank Councillor Nicholson for this fine suggestion, of which I am merely the emissary. The detrimental effect of COVID to our economy has been witnessed by us all over the last 9 months. I feel that we as local representatives should always seek to assist our local enterprises where we can, particularly in light of the current economic climate. For many of our island businesses, Christmas time is their most productive period, and it is all more important that we should try and support them in any way we can. I feel that this innovative suggestion from my colleague, I hope, will give a vital boost to the shopkeepers of this borough at this crucial time for them in the trading year, and it will be my pleasure to recommend this proposal to the Chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. I see your hand up, Councillor Kenny John MacLeod.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just would urge some caution on this. I understand completely and support the objectives of trying to encourage and promote the use of our town centre retailers and the general experience. But unfortunately, what may happen with this is where there is no incentive to more rapidly turn around the spaces in the car parks, you may get people simply parking their vehicles there for much longer, and thereby reducing the capacity to have greater numbers visit the town centre, but by not releasing these spaces sufficient turnaround time. I absolutely support the objective, but I'm not quite sure if this is actually going to help or hinder that. And I would just suggest caution in the way that we're trying to support the town centre there. I absolutely endorse and support the support for the town centre retailers and trying to improve the experience, but this may well actually reduce the number of people who can make use of the town centre by having much longer stay in the car parks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair, not a member of your committee, for allowing me to come back. And I note Councillor MacLeod's point there, but this has come from the businesses within the centre. And speaking to Mr Mackenzie in relation to that, the point of this is to look at it as a pilot project, and if it doesn't kind of work or it's taken in the wrong way, there will be a percentage, I'm sure, as Councillor MacLeod indicates, will go. But we go on trust on this, and it's something that's come from the business fraternity that they feel, because of the situation of this year especially, that it is worth looking at this option to try and help the economy and the businesses within the town, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Anybody else want to come in? Your hand's still up, Councillor Kenny John. Councillor Gordon Murray.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Just listening to this additional recommendation. If successful and your committee agrees, if it's put out in the press to announce that, it could have a kind of a statement or something to say, to take cognizance of the fact that it's to help businesses and not to remain or respect. The reason why we're doing it is to help businesses, so not to hog the parking. I know that's bad vocabulary, but I'm sure it could be framed in a way when it's announced in the press. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Do I take it that people are happy to support this additional recommendation?
Yeah, I'm seconding the recommendation, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we are. So are members happy to agree the recommendation of 3.1 with the additional recommendation put forward by Councillor Ronald Fraser and seconded by Councillor Kenny MacLeod? And that is that the Corn agree to provide free parking in Percival Square car park, limited to a maximum period of 2 hours for the period from 18th December 2020 to 5th of January 2021 to help support businesses during the festive period. Are we happy to agree these recommendations? And maybe Nigel and Colin George should take on board what Councillor Murray said.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Mr Mackenzie will work with them to put something out so it's clear what the intention is, and I think we will do some monitoring of uptake and what effect it has over the period.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Move on to item 11, road safety. This report provides an update on matters associated with road safety and highlights the work of the Highlands and Islands Road Casualty Reduction Group. Details of the action plan for the Outer Hebrides is appended to the report. This report also seeks to delay the promotion of the assay place order after the introduction of other speed limit measures, which Callum Mackenzie will address and answer any questions. Callum.
Thank you, Chair. If I could maybe just draw some attention to some of the points of the report. One is the work of the Highlands and Islands Road Casualty Reduction Group, which has been very useful for us locally because we get a much larger perspective of what the issues are causing casualties on our roads. We thankfully have very few figures to go on, but the initiatives been undertaken in the likes of the Highlands and Islands area are very helpful to coordinate campaigns and initiatives. We also have a very active local group where we discuss matters with emergency services, police, fire, and ourselves from an operational perspective on roads. So what I've done under section 6 is give an update of some key points of where we are just now. So if I can maybe just highlight from paragraph 6.3 that things were very quiet during the actual lockdown from March, but there's been a notice that after the lockdown restrictions were relaxed, that we're seeing a 65% increase in people driving without a licence, 79% increase in those driving without insurance, and a 37% increase on those reported for careless driving. And over and above that, there's been an increase in drink driving, speeding, and antisocial behaviour. So it's not a pretty picture of where we're going with the enforcement on our roads. So the initiatives we're looking at are geared around these findings. Where we are as well with other operational concerns, so anything we do in terms of changing enforceable measures on roads have to be covered by traffic regulation orders. So in 6.5, we've got a list of the ones that we're currently promoting. The 20-mile-an-hour speed limits being done through the Spaces for People initiative, they've been delayed in implementation because it appears that there's been a challenge in Edinburgh at using temporary traffic regulation orders, and that the appropriate way to do it is through an experimental order. So that's going to take us into January before we can actually implement the 20-mile-an-hour limits. That's just something I've been told this morning. So there are other traffic regulation orders in development there in 6.6, and other speed limits being assessed in 6.7. We do have an issue we're looking at in Assay Place in terms of promoting an experimental order. There have been some objections to that through the consultation period, and the view is that we're now not in a position where we can evaluate that on an actual basis because of the restrictions we still have in the UHI. From one of the main issues was that the traffic through Assay Place was generally increasing at times when the college was coming out of lunchtime and in the evening. So the college doesn't have the same level of traffic just now. So therefore, if we were to implement the experimental order just now, it may not give us the right the picture. So we're looking at delaying that until we can assess the impact of other Spaces for People measures, plus that the college traffic is at a usual limit. That's all I have to say on that, Chair, but happy to take any questions.
Councillor Gordon Murray, you have a question.
Thanks, Chair, and I'd like to say thanks to the department for all the work they've done on the Assay Place traffic order. again, I'd like to say I'm not a member of your committee, but I have to express my disappointment to see this recommendation regarding a safe place before us. And I'm sure you'd appreciate the local members' views on this, but I remember when I took you, Chair, to see a safe place, and you know the kind of setup, and I'm just wanting to say to members that a safe place is sandwiched in between two roads, two busy roads. And one of them is Willow Glen Road, and it's quite a wide, fast road that increases, and at the top is a junction that comes onto quite a busy road. And the problem that a safe place has is that drivers going up Willow Glen Road will look at the junction at the top, and then dependent on the time, or dare I say it, impatience, will quickly make a decision and turn into a safe place, travelling at speed. And I would say I don't think many people plan to go through a safe place, as it's quite difficult to actually come out of Macaulay Road. But only those who are in a hurry making a quick decision. So the suggestion that maybe a 20-mile-per-hour zone might have an impact. But as you know yourself, Chair, a safe place is quite a narrow road with cars parked. And even, I would say, even 15 miles per hour with a lack of visibility is going too fast through that road. Even with COVID and the college, there's still going to be drivers driving in a hurry. You can't wait at the top. And if you're in that kind of hurry, you're running late, it's not the best condition for driving down a narrow street where children are invariably playing. So I see there's been objections, a few objections. I don't know where they're from. I know from my experience that none of them will be from a safe place, because I went round the doors a few years ago asking about how they felt about this traffic order, and they were all saying they were very nervous about cars coming through a safe place. So I know that the people have mentioned objectors, but I would say that the residents of our safe place want to see this traffic order. The Manor and Castle Community Association want to see this traffic order. The Stornoway Community Council want to see this traffic order take place. And it's just a trial, okay? So this has been going on for a while. Let's try it, because what I read from the report is that you're putting it off indefinitely. So let's try it and see what happens. And I would urge the committee, I'm not a member of the committee, to put it forward. Thank you.
You want to respond to that, Colin?
Yes, there's not much that I disagree with from what Councillor Murray has said. It's not an indefinite postponement. As you read from the recommendation, it says until traffic levels are normalised and the impact of additional safety measures are assessed. So it's basically a delay until we can assess that. We've discussed this with Police Scotland as well, and I think that that's a reasonable measure to take. And I would hope that things would be normalised and assessed and able to consider this again in the next spring, summer, if all goes well with the COVID situation.
Chair, can I just respond?
Yes, Councillor Murray, yes, you can.
I mean, another point that I failed to mention, as Mr. Mackenzie mentioned, is that the driving standards are not getting any better. So we need, I would say we really need this order to ensure safety for our children. Thanks.
I mean, I did probably a year ago take a spin up with Gordon, and we talked to a number of people. And I walked round there last night as well, Gordon, just to have a look again. And I sympathise with what you're saying. Councillor Norman MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Funnily enough, I too have had representations about this. And I agree with Councillor Murray, and I think the general consensus is that there is a requirement within the area, not just particularly a safe place. I think Willow Glen Road as well has kids playing, and exacerbated by the college traffic in particular. I think several suggestions have been put forward, speed bumps or limits on Willow Glen Road itself, or possibly even to alleviate the issue, a suggestion to divert the traffic. There's a one-way system that comes into the college and the golf club, and the road is wider than a safe place and wider than Canada Crescent. And if that was assessed as a two-way street, it would take the traffic straight back onto Macaulay Road. I think a sit-down meeting with all the residents and with our own department and possibly the police to ascertain a workable solution, just find out what people want, because there's definitely a danger there. I'm very well aware of it. I think I supported Gordon within 6 months of coming into the corner. I think this was highlighted. I mean, I'm one of the folk who has used a safe place, as it was described as a rat one, but particularly at times of college egress, there is definitely an issue, and I think it does deserve a wider examination when we do get traffic levels back to normal. So I support Councillor Murray's call for an investigation into what can be done, but there are several representations on various solutions. So I think a working solution in collaboration with the residents would be a good idea.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you. Well, on the safe place one, I quite agree with what Councillor MacDonald has said just now, and Councillor Murray. And that point actually occurred to me, the question of Canada Crescent. It seems a bit illogical that Canada Crescent has houses on one side of the street only, but it's one way. And the other thing is how many objections actually were received about doing away with this order. So I would maybe Mr. Mackenzie could answer that. But there was one other point which actually I was going to raise myself, and that is something I would like investigated, Chairman, if possible. And that is, I noticed that there's a Stornoway 30 mile an hour, and I don't know how far out that goes, but if you go out just past the Taw's Quarry, or Wilton's Quarry, the 40 mile an hour ends between there and it's a Creed Lodge, it's called. Now there's a gap there of a few hundred yards, and then up to the new substation, electrical substation at Macaulay Farm. There's a 40 mile an hour passes that started there. And there's only a few hundred yards between the end of the 40 mile an hour coming out from Stornoway and the 40 mile an hour starting at the electrical station. And I wonder why, that could not be extended, or can it be extended? Because particularly during the last 8 months or so, I've been out and walking and all the rest of it, and I see the lorries going, and there's a lot of lorries going back and forth, including council ones, and they're thundering along there. And it's a very small gap between the 40 mile an hour at the quarry and the 40 mile an hour up at the substation. So my question is, after explaining all that, could that be extended, that 40 mile an hour, or even 30 mile an hour, if that's effective? Thank you.
Colin Mackenzie, these 2 points.
Okay, your first point was regarding a safe place on the number of objections. There was 6 objections. However, it's not really the number of objections we're looking at. And just to reiterate, we're not looking at not doing this. And I think, as Councillor MacDonald mentioned, it's more about reassessing the area, the impacts on Willow Glen Road and a safe place, and doing it at a time there's an experimental order when the college traffic has normalised. So that would give us a better perspective of that area. In relation to Marybank, the 40 mile an hour at the substation was a temporary order for the construction works, but we are looking at extending the 40 mile an hour limit there just to round about where the Horse Arena is. So that's one of our proposals we're looking at just now. I've neglected to put that in the report, Councillor Mackenzie, but we are looking at it.
Thank you, Colin.
Can I just say excellent?
Yeah, we always like excellent. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair. Not a member of your committee. In relation to the recommendations, be agreed to delay the further promotion and implementation of Massey Place. Chair, this was on the agenda of the last council that I was involved with and was going to be taken forward. And now we're in another council and nearly 2-3 years in. The people out there, the community council, the local residents association and other groups have been asking for this. And COVID's in as such. Are we going to wait until we have the Hebridean Celtic Festival to get the really heavy traffic as such? We should put this in and implement the experimental traffic thing just now. Less traffic just now. We see if there's any kind of issues. To leave it going on and on with the representation from the people of the area and also the increase of young people around that area as such. I would be suggesting to committee that they look at agreeing to putting in the experimental traffic order at this time, but that will be up to your committee, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Murray.
Thanks, Chair, and I'm very grateful for you allowing me back in, and I'm listening to the comments, and I just want to confirm that I think we've all got road safety in mind, and I'm thankful for the members' comments on that. And just to go back to what Councillor MacDonald was saying, I think to reassess the area again after so long is maybe could be seen as kicking it into the long grass. We've been discussing this for a while. The department have come up with this traffic order. It's on the brink of being implemented. Now it's only a trial. Let's try it out, and if it works, we can accept it. If it's a problem, we can dismiss it, and then we can look at other things. But we're on the brink of putting it in place. So. I'm grateful for this discussion, but I think if we go back to square one again, we're just going round and round in circles. Pardon the pun in terms of roundabouts. But so I would urge the committee implement it, see how it goes, and then we can come back and have a reassess if it's worked or not. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Kerry John MacLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I think if the purpose of the trial is to see how things pan out under normal circumstances, I think we want to have it reflective of normal circumstances as much as possible in order to see if that is the way forward. I quite understand the recommendation and the rationale behind it, and it's not certainly kicking it into the long grass or the distant grass. I think it's a pragmatic and a sensible way forward so that the situation can be monitored under as near normal circumstances as possible in order that then inform the decisions for the future. So I certainly support the recommendation.
Councillor MacDonald. You're muted.
He's on mute.
You're still muted.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you on my own voice. I said I think the original proposal. Thanks again for letting me in. I'm not a member of your committee. I think the original proposal was a no right turn into a safe place which again would be a working solution. So there are several possible, very little cost solutions to this, and I think we could bring them forward quickly once we've come out of the current situation. I don't think it would take too long. Certainly could be well done before the next Hebridean Celtic Festival, where the volume of traffic increases dramatically. But in conjunction with the parents, the community councils, etc., the residents, I think we could come up with something fairly quickly, and I would like to hope we can.
Right, Colm, I wasn't ignoring you there at all. I was just wanting to give other members an opportunity, and I am sympathetic to what Councillor Murray says, I have to say, but do you have any further comment to make on this, and how quickly could we move on this? I mean, waiting until summer seems rather a long time, so do we have any timelines in terms of how quickly we could do this? To give some comfort to Councillor Murray.
When we do, this is an experimental order for 8 months, and during the experimental order, I think as Councillor Kenny John MacLeod mentioned, you wanted to be representative of the conditions. So if we were to implement it just now, which we presumably can still do, it may not give a representative answer. So the answer that may come back is that no, it's not worth doing this, and then you come back into the normalised position and you find, well, you've got an issue again and having to revisit it. So it does take a while to get a traffic regulation order put in place due to the process behind it. I think you would be looking at spring, summer, maybe April, May next year to put it in. That's the timescale I would possibly be looking at. But I mean, I'm happy to take the recommendations of the committee. But operationally, it has been discussed with the local roads engineers, with Police Scotland, and it's in our view it's best to wait until the conditions are normalised.
Okay, thank you very much, Colm. Gordon, I mean, the point made by Colm there is fairly relevant and sensible, but are you still of a mind that you want to see this moved on right now, bearing in mind what Colm has just said, which is perfectly legitimate?
Yes, it is. I would say it goes back to my point. I mean, it only takes one car to go through very quickly. And I say that, you know, going back to Councillor MacDonald's point is about options. Let's just try it out and see if it works. I mean, if it's going to be on for 8 months, it's going to encompass many different periods, times, etc. Let's try it out. I mean, I would urge the committee to really kind of think about it and put it through, and then dismiss it or accept it, because I think it's important.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Anybody else got any views on this in terms of going with this recommendation or changing the recommendation?
Committee's agreed to the recommendation as advised by the officer.
So I'm being advised, okay, do members agree the recommendations of 3.1 as advised by officers? Councillor Murray.
Chair, if there was a time that Mr. Mackenzie would be happy with to implement it, I think that might be palatable to the residents and the relevant associations, because we don't know when things will get back to normal. And as Mr. Mackenzie did say, that driving standards are decreasing.
Chair, yes. If I may, I wonder, Chairman, would the committee be happy if we bring this back to the next meeting?
Yes.
And at that time determine whether we proceed with it and whether things are looking like. I'm mindful that Mr. Murray is right. It's very difficult to judge when COVID is going to ease. and I do appreciate the concerns the committee are. So rather than putting it into an unknown thing, if we agree that the matter, if you were happy to agree that Mr. Mackenzie will bring it back to the next meeting of the committee, and if it doesn't look like things are going to improve with plans to take it forward at that stage, and if it looks like the COVID situation is easing at that point, then he can reflect that in the report. Would that satisfy Mr. Murray that it wasn't then being pushed on too long, so that we wasn't clear what was going to happen?
Would you be happy with that, Councillor Murray?
Well, I'd hope we wouldn't be having the same conversation where we're talking again about the same thing and not having our time. We've got to really make a decision about it, I would say.
Okay, we'll go with the suggestion from Robert. Maybe you can phrase that.
I think, Chairman, I think we can, perhaps the committee is happy to agree that Mr. Mackenzie will report back to the next committee on plans for implementation, so that something's going to happen, Mr. Murray, one way or another, and in whatever the circumstances are. I agree that if some action is needed around road safety there, then let's do something. Let's not put it off. But Mr. Mackenzie, if he's happy with that, can report to the next committee with proposals rather than just bringing back the same question, if that's satisfactory.
Mr. Mackenzie, with definite timelines. Yes.
Well done, Chair.
I'm happy to do that, Chair. Just the next committee deadline is first week back in January. I've got 2 weeks probably left in December, so it is very tight to actually say, right, and this is what we do. But if that's what the committee want me to do, then I'll do it.
I think that's. I do sympathise with Councillor Murray, and after visiting, I do take the point. So if we can get a move on with this, it'll be useful. Do we have wording for that?
Yeah, I've just sorted it out. Yeah, we report back We report back on the further promotion and implementation of the SA Plates experimental traffic order with definitive timescales. Something along that lines to the February series of meetings.
Okay, are you happy with that, Councillor Murray? Definite timelines.
I'm more comfortable, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you very much. Right, item 12 is in private, so we'll move on to reports outstanding, which is 13, and that's for noting. Okay, we will now conclude the meeting and go into private to consider item 12. The relevant officers and members of the committee should remain. Would all other participants please leave the meeting now? You check them all.